I don't know if I have a good answer for that. I don't feel like I make anyone do anything. So what my experience has been, especially recently, has been, and I'm very excited by it, but like learners coming to me, you have to critically appraise everything, right? Even studies that are done internally. So at McMaster, we have dozens of randomized controlled trials across the world, across all subspecialties of ortho that are being done. And how we incorporate technology, specifically AI, and depending on the type of surgery, potentially robotics and things along those lines. But the AI, I think, is one of the big ones.
So could you walk us through your current research team at McMaster? How is it structured? Who does what? And how do roles evolve?
Yeah, so the structure is, I would say, are what we consider a high performance team, and there's a lot of literature around how to do that and how to construct that. And then the best way I think about it is, because a lot of institutions want to do research and say they want to do research, and for some it's easier than others, or it appears easier than others. And I think we owe a lot to the infrastructure we have here. First, at least in orthopedics specifically, Mo Bandaria created the Center for Evidence-Based Ortho. That has its own kind of team that's associated with that across all elements that are important to research. Femi Ayeti in our sports world has grown that as well. And I always think about kind of the Steve Jobs kind of idea of like, don't hire people and tell them what to do. You know, watch them, hire smarter people, and let them do what they're trained to do, and get the most out of your team. Essentially, I'm kind of paraphrasing this quote, but that's the essential piece of it: is don't micromanage, let people play to their skill set. And so to that extent, we are structured in that way. I think from a sports standpoint, our director is Femi. He's our kind of vision leader in the sense of like what direction we take the sports medicine research program, joint wise, topic wise. Do we switch, or do we focus on surgical outcomes or other elements of care that are important? So that kind of higher level strategy, I think, comes from him. We are kind of, if you want to say, pronged out in the two specialist areas by joint. He would particularly look after the hip, for example. A lot of my practice is in the knee. I have both a blended adult and pediatric practice, and so then I take kind of that prong of our research. Kind of at the higher level are our research managers. So we have a person named Nicole Simonovich, who brings a wealth of experience across all facets of research, whether it's statistics and methodology, grant writing, dissemination of information, coordinating trials. She really is a true asset to our team and allows us to grow that way. And then there are different tiers of learners, I would say, whether they be residents, fellows, medical students sometimes, even undergraduate students, as our profile within our institution is starting to grow and grow, that contribute to different degrees. And the way to think about it is, again, everyone is told and everyone is presented with the opportunity to grow as you go. As you can demonstrate your ability, you will get more, and that, I think, keeps people engaged. It keeps, the constant development and skill set allows people to go through it. And then you get to a point where then they're able to develop and lead their own mini projects. And so it just goes like this as you go from there. But everyone starts with basics of, if we have a program and a few lectures and basically a course where members of our research management team will go over new recruits on fundamentals, because that's where it starts, right? So they go over fundamentals, different types of study design, how to conduct different things. And once you have that, then you get thrown into a project, you get thrown into a role that is relatively low stakes, but an ability to demonstrate your ability and ability to meet kind of deadlines and to do high quality work, etc. And there's a constant evaluation process, and as you prove yourself, you move up.
But, that's a well structured research team to say. Particularly your research manager, I think, helping writing grant is a big deal. At the end of the day, funding matters. So if someone can write a grant on your behalf with all the scientific knowledge, that will be a great help.
It's shared. It's shared in the sense that they definitely bring a wealth of study design knowledge, budgeting, how to conduct things across, like conduct studies across different countries, different healthcare systems, that whole realm that as surgeons we may not be familiar with. That all is important in the grant because you have to demonstrate different parameters that you're hoping to achieve. And then together with our clinical acumen and expertise there together, it kind of helps that way. And as you say, the grants are one part, and there's a whole other part of administrative work that goes into running a research team that they are critical with.
So, what is their qualification? How do you get the research managers? Do they have a degree there in Canada?
We have, for example, a master's program at McMaster in health research methodology, specifically in that. And I would say most people that end up in that role, directing or managing these research teams, have come with that skill set. So they get that master's, they may pursue it even higher to PhD level, but that I would say is the core training for that.
Wonderful. So, do you guys collaborate with engineers? Do you sit with mechanical engineers, design engineers, or sometimes the biomechanical guys? And
No, for sure. We have a robust engineering faculty at McMaster, and there's always interest in collaborating there. There are some institutional, sometimes departmental challenges that can be there, but there are ongoing projects and discussions to do that. We also collaborate not only with engineering, but with other faculties as well. Our anatomy department is a very close collaborator. There's a whole realm of research we do in 3D printing, for example, and anatomical base models for patterns of stability, for example. And it's not all surgical outcomes focused too. We collaborate with these groups for on the educational side too, so research and medical education. Similarly with our department in kinesiology. So we have ties. The university has a very strong interdisciplinary pathway. They have departments that are set up to help facilitate these collaborations too, so you're not left on your own to try to reach out. There are systems in place to help make that connection easier. But certainly, yeah, we are very involved with collaborating within the institution, outside of the Department of Surgery, within the Department of Surgery, and then also globally.
so, how do you keep the team morale high during long projects or even some failed projects? How do you group them up again and make them start a new project?
I don't know if I have a good answer for that. I don't feel like I make anyone do anything. So what my experience has been, especially recently, has been, and I'm very excited by it, but like learners coming to me with ideas that they either think haven't been done or would like to see come to fruition to some degree. So what's helpful for me is I have the clinical insight to be like, you shouldn't do that, or we should do that, or that hasn't been done before, and I can advise and mentor in that role. But I don't find that I'm not sending out emails to say I'm looking for research people, I'm looking for this, I need, like, it's the complete opposite way around. There's a whole notes function on my phone. I have over 50 learners and names and contacts of people that just want to be a part of whatever they're seeing happening. I don't think it's specifically me, but I think it's the culture that we have in our Max Sports kind of research group. People are seeing, again, to our structure and to our credit of our research team being able to disseminate the knowledge and disseminate the work we're doing. People are seeing the success and want to be part of that. And I think that alone is a huge motivator for morale. I do value the importance of creating like this culture of cohesion and collegiality. Research can sometimes seem isolated, can sometimes seem like you're on your own, but kind of part of a team that meets virtually or very randomly meets in person and connects only by email or text or that kind of thing. I value a lot the in-person connection, and it's important to connect with your team in and outside the research. So I do myself organize team building activities. I'll do, celebration type dinners. It's important to celebrate milestones and things like this. For example, I am one of the principal investigators for our randomized trial in pediatric ACL reconstruction. And when we completed our pilot study of 100 patients across many centers in Canada and in Japan, that was a huge undertaking. Certainly, I'm part of it, but this is massive. And this is massive to many degrees that you might not think about in terms of trials, including people that come and surgically assist, people that do the blinded assessments, all the back end work on forms and data entry, etc. And so you have to celebrate that kind of stuff. And I think if you just kind of move on and say, pilot study done, let's get the funding, let's go into the thing, people just feel like you're constantly in a work mode and you don't get to enjoy it. You don't get to sit back and see what you've accomplished over what period of time. So we do different things, different team building events, dinners. But again, it's important, not so much the actual event or the dinner piece, but to connect, to see each other and to take some time. And I think that alone helps you get off kind of this wheel of constant productivity and not really seeing it. You see your success, you see your group success, and then I think it keeps you motivated to join.
That seems to be a very healthy research culture. Thank
Yeah,
you.
the important thing is like we don't pay anyone, right? Like it's not like I have funding to pay. Like these are people that are volunteering, they're giving up their time, and so when you recognize that, a lot of people will only, when you ask them to do something, the first question out of their mouth is like, what does this pay me? And what is the financial gain for me? I think in our group, we don't have this. People are willingly coming into volunteer positions to be part of something that they see that they can, contribute to, but also get personal growth and success with. So I don't think it's not myself alone, but I think I contribute to this culture, but this culture existed before me and is still very permeant at McMaster.
So, how do you choose your research questions? What is your experience on continuing research and turning the research ideas into some products that can be commercialized,
Mm-hmm.
etc.
I think it helps to be, for me at least, it helps to be involved and somewhat at kind of the forefront of the field. So by what I mean by that is like I practice in an academic environment. So there are constantly, uh, everyone around is always looking to advance and push the needle and do things more efficiently, more slick, more cost effective. There's always ways to try. You're in an environment of continuous improvement or striving for this. So that helps in a sense because it forces me, and even if it doesn't force me, I'm just by osmosis, so to speak, I'm in an environment where everyone around you is trying to push that needle. So when that's happening, I am also very involved in education, so you have to maintain the standards that come to you this way. So you have to critically think about what you do, why you do it, and could you do it better. These kind of become the springboards for the questions. Again, because I do a lot of research, I'm reading the literature. So as you start to familiarize yourself with it, you start to identify areas that are gaps potentially that you could explore. You start to see and you see by reading other people's papers, for example, the challenges they may have in a study or in answering a particular question, and it allows you to think. We have meetings with our teams, so to speak, or think tanks, where we brainstorm a lot of this stuff and filter a lot gets filtered out and doesn't actually make it through. But it's an opportunity where I think it's combined with me reading and trying to stay current, me being in an environment where I'm somewhat forced to do that because of the academic nature and who I'm training, and our culture, and then just kind of having the opportunity to be around like-minded people that are thinking and exploring and brainstorming where these kind of ideas then start to come out.
Suppose you do a clinical trial at your institute, and then the result of the clinical trial or the conclusion of the study is quite different from your current practice. Do you straight away implement the change that the study suggests, or do you wait for some more trials to come out from other parts of the world? Or in short, does your research makes change in your clinical practice?
You have to critically appraise everything, right? Even studies that are done internally. So at McMaster, we have dozens of randomized controlled trials across the world, across all subspecialties of ortho that are being done and or are currently in process. So we are I would say, as a group, a mecca for randomized controlled trials at the highest level of evidence. You have to always integrate the findings with a bit of caution, I would say, because while they may be methodologically sound, there are some elements that, depending on the specific type of the question or the specific nature of the patient population, may not entirely be generalizable to everything. So there is a fair degree of critical appraisal that has to go in. But I think you do these studies with the goal in mind to have an impact on your practice, usually for the better, depending on what the results show. So an example I can give you is like our group conducted a study internally across multiple sites, but it's termed the no pain study. But essentially what it's aiming to do is in arthroscopic shoulder and knee surgery, reduce or minimize the impact of postoperative opioid prescription. And so there was kind of two treatment arms, a standard pathway, and where usually there's a minimal amount of opioids given, and a non-opioid pathway with an opportunity for rescue medicine or rescue opioids should the patient's condition require it. And there's methods are detailed there, and I can share that resource if you like. But we did that across shoulder and knee and internally. So this is our patient population. This is our surgeries. These are our surgeons. This is directly applicable to us. And that trial was done. The results were very favorable. They're published in JAMA, and that had direct impact on my care because not only did I know from a methodological standpoint it was a well done study, but it also directly from an appraisal standpoint applied to our population because it was our surgeons, our procedures, our equipment, our environment. And so that was almost a direct change in practice where now for almost all my arthroscopic procedures are essentially opioid free. And so, that was a huge impact of where that did. But, it depends on, even though it's the highest level of study, it depends on kind of the question of who you're trying to apply it to.
Wonderful. So, in multi-center trials, how do you maintain the methodological rigor and the data quality across centers? And, how do you maintain transparency between the centers?
Yeah, so that I think it's very important, and it's something that you build into your structure and in your methodology ahead of time. So, for example, I'll use the squash trial, which is the one I'm co-leading in pediatric ACL reconstruction. This has multiple sites across Canada and one in Japan as the pilot study, but now has expanded to several sites internationally. And so what's important is a couple of things. So we always have a feasibility questionnaire before you bring on any group to understand their environment as best we can and to see or try to anticipate challenges in this ahead of time. And provided they pass that and go through the process and then become onboarded, there's an introductory meeting where we, again, go over kind of the expectations and set the ground rules for recording and transparency and data sharing and storage, for example, amongst other things. And then there are frequent check-ins that are done. This is largely coordinated by the research team that's associated to the study, and you carve out funding to allow for that. But there are check-ins for that. There are usually different incentives based throughout. So at the very minimal, like for complete data and for complete forms and accurate form completion, this would be tied to receiving the funding associated with it. So just because you're recruiting, if you fall short on these other important metrics, you may not only get credit, but you can include your stuff and you won't get the financial compensation that's required for that time. So these are all kind of things that we build into contracts with sites, the protocols of our studies, and things of that nature. And then from a transparency and data piece, what's important is our trials have a data safety and monitoring board. So this is a group of people that are aware of the study but external to it, that have research and knowledge expertise, not only in the field, but also in how to conduct trials. And, there's a part of the meeting that's what we say open, where I, as a principal investigator, will be part of, and some basic information and data would be presented. And then there's a closed meeting where the research team and this group meet and looking more in depth at different things. So that's where they're looking at, integrity, reporting, gaps, and all those kinds of things. So that's an independent piece from the principal investigators, and concerns if they arise are brought up. But there are multiple checks in place at multiple time points to try to ensure, because a trial is a huge undertaking for anything. So the last thing you want to do is have to go back at the end of it and start to fill in these gaps. And so there's, I would say, a concomitant check in place to minimize this.
Wonderful, Dr. Darren. So for the past 45 minutes, I think you have given wonderful insights into building a research team brick by brick, maintaining their motivation, conducting some valuable translational research, as well as your insights on multi-center trials. We are coming to the closing part of the podcast. So what are the 3 big areas of research in orthopedics in the next decade, according to you?
the three biggest areas for orthopedic research, I would say one is how we're going to mitigate or incorporate artificial intelligence, machine learning. This is an area that is rapidly expanding across all the different journals, across all the fields. It has its role, but it's somewhat of a two-edged or a double-edged sword. It can be, somewhat harmful as well, depending on its context. And so I think understanding how we can leverage this technology, it's not going away. So, how we can leverage this technology to further our understanding of patients, patient outcomes, and drive knowledge, yet at the same time not sacrificing quality and other parameters will be important. I think there is a drive now to longer term data to most of the studies are 1 to 2 year follow-ups, and may not be appropriate windows to capture issues with the treatment we treat. And so I think in general, moving towards clinical studies with mid to more longer term follow-up are the things that are going to be more impactful. And then, in terms of topics or field, every group has its own kind of areas that are letting it develop. I think in my world, certainly, it would be interesting to see, and I don't think it's a big three across orthopedics, but in sports medicine and particularly in pediatric sport medicine, the ACL epidemic is a big problem, and so how you choose to attack this is still very much up for debate. This is a group, we're starting to see the effects of gender and sex now in sports, more female participation for different reasons, more female injury, poorer outcomes in this population, whether it's a bony alignment or a sagittal plane, clonal plane alignment issue, whether it's a graft choice, whether it's a rehab, whether it's a mental health component, who knows? But there are huge epidemics that are happening in every kind of subspecialty of orthopedics that I think will be the focus of those groups as you go forward. But I think permeating all of them will be kind of this move to mid to longer term follow-up, and how we incorporate technology, specifically AI, and depending on the type of surgery, potentially robotics and things along those lines. But the AI, I think, is one of the big ones.
Do you think robotics will penetrate into arthroscopy?
Yeah, I mean, never say never. I'm aware of people that are using it for different elements of it. So for anatomic placement, for example, or to be more precise, then you can have the debate of, whether these precision from technology is actually recognized clinically in a significant way. But I'll never say never. You'll be surprised. And, I mean, medtech is ever expanding, so I don't count them out.
Where do you see the Canadian orthopedic research heading in the next decade?
Canada is interesting because although it's quite a vast country, land mass wise, I would say that it's very consistent in the training and the surgical approach in the thought process. And so that gets leveraged or can be leveraged quite nicely to start presenting a larger but more unified voice in terms of how different pathology is managed. I think there's an opportunity for consensus statements with high degree of agreement and high degree of not only clinical expertise but research and credentials behind it to actually impact care that come out of that. You don't see it a lot. You don't see the Canadian perspective represented a lot across global consensus statements, or unless we're leading the trial, it's not really advertised. But I think there's a lot of untapped knowledge and expertise here in Canada that if we can come together, and we have organizations that do that. We have the overarching Canadian Orthopedic Association, we have the Arthroscopy Association of Canada, that if we can come together as a unified voice, I think can make a real impact in how research is done and how clinical care is impacted, because it's so generalizable across country and so standard.
So finally, we have a rapid fire fun round. You should give a one-word answer and a quick answer, perhaps. Which surgery gives you the greater adrenaline rush in the world?
Oh, the adrenaline rush?
Yeah.
I would say ACL reconstruction. I love that. It's
Yeah,
a race. Get that stable knee and get it done well. Get it done in a timely fashion.
if you could instantly master one surgical innovation, robotics, artificial intelligence, biologics, or something else, which one it would be?
AI, for sure. I've started doing some workshops in that. It's made huge changes in my practice right now, but it's not going away. And the more comfort you get and the more flexible you can get with this technology, I think it's got a huge upside.
The most common sports injury myth that you wish to bust.
Yeah, I would say we don't have the data yet behind PRP, so I think it's touted as the be all and end all, but it's maybe more aggressively marketed than the science is there behind it.
So, what is your favorite playlist in the war?
House music, anything house.
So, the most satisfying moment in sports surgery, perfect tunnel, flawless graft tension, or watching your patients return to play or your fellows operate.
Gratification comes from the last two, for sure. These are when that because especially ACL, but a lot of our procedures, there's a long recovery. The surgery itself is not bad; it's a long recovery. And when they come to you and say thank you, and now I can do this, etc., and that gratitude that comes with it, never gets old, and is a huge motivating factor for myself. And at the same time, I think I remember seeing a post somewhere on social media. It's like, if you fail to train kind of the generation after you, it's a crime against humanity as a surgeon. And so there's always a balance between you wanting to do it and you controlling the outcome in your hands versus the gratification that comes with seeing you able to pass on both knowledge and skill. And so I'd say those are neck and neck, and for different reasons. For personal growth and professional growth, it's very close.
Thank you, Dr. De Sa. So this brings us to the end of the podcast. Your answers have been very, very insightful, and I'm very sure that it's going to inspire a lot of young surgeons like me to build research teams and to do some multicentric trials like you do.
Thank you again, and thank you for the opportunity. This was great, great fun, and catching up with you as well. And so, I can share my contact information too, so I'm happy to connect with you or anyone else if they want to talk about this further.
Yeah, sure. We will be happy to put your mail ID in the description of the video.
Perfect. Thank you.